It's coming. There we go.
Welcome to the return of the Unquestionably Raw NBA podcast. I'm your host, Pete Toal. With me is my co-host, Matt Miller. Basically, we're going to talk about The Last Dance, which I'm pretty sure everybody's watched by now, under the quarantine circumstances. Hope everybody out there is safe and following social distancing rules. For our first episode, we're going to kind of do something a little different. We're going to split it into two different groups. We have a great panel for you tonight. In our first group, obviously everybody can see on the screen, we've got Greg Griffin, aka DJ Gonzostar. Everybody knows we did the podcast a couple years ago. He was a huge part of that. We've also got Byron with us. Byron also, was a continued guest on the podcast as well. And with us is special guest Allana Tachauer, and she's part of the Bulls Outsiders on NBC Sports Chicago. How's everybody doing?
Doing great.
Great.
Good.
Hanging in there.
Yeah, I think everybody's doing, like I said, the best they can. I think everybody was glad they moved up the the documentary from June to April, so it gave us something to watch with no live basketball. But really wanted to dive into about 5 topics for tonight. The first topic, I wanted to get everybody's personal kind of memory of that particular season, the 97-98 Bulls. Also, what you thought of the first 2 episodes as a whole, just kind of covering just the material in those 2 episodes. Allana, I'm going to go to you first. Just anything you can share from personal memory.
Yeah. So honestly, the reason that I fell in love with the Bulls when I was little is because I went to a Bulls Raptors game with my family. I think I was like 7 or 8, and Tony Kukoc was injured for like 1 game or whatever, and I met him, and like just being the 7 or 8-year-old girl that I was like obsessed with him, thought he was like super dreamy, and so then I started following the team. So I feel like my experience is a little different than everyone else's, but obviously like it was the golden era, right? So how could you not mess with that team? But I just remember like thinking stupidly probably, but like that all NBA teams were that good. It's like, this is just what NBA caliber basketball is. And then the more I watched, the more I realized that like MJ was just in a completely different like class of his own. So I feel like I was young. I was like too young to remember everything clearly, but like old enough to remember how amazing how amazed everyone was with them. And then kind of like to tie into that, going along with like just how much everything has shaped like the city for the Bulls. I think even though obviously they're struggling now, the Bulls are going to remain, the legacy of the Bulls will remain part of Chicago forever. And I think being here, you always go back to that no matter what. I think even after the Derrick Rose era, people were still comparing that to, MJ's Bulls. So I don't think that's ever going to change. And I think just dating back to my childhood, it's something that like is just ingrained in me. Like NBA basketball Michael Jordan is the Chicago Bulls.
Nice. Greg, what you got? I know obviously, we've talked at length about Jordan and kind of the Bulls on the podcast previously, but I just want to kind of get your, personal thoughts growing up, being a Chicago resident, and just kind of what you thought of the Bulls and then what you thought of the documentary so far.
I think the documentary it's well put together. I even like the way they go to 97, 98 and how they transition back to Jordan's rookie year. Then it kind of hits you back on a little bit of 97, 98. I like the transition that they're going with, kind of the flow that they're going with the whole documentary. But man, when I look at Michael Jordan in 97, 98, I wanted them to win that championship so bad, just because of all the beatings they took against Detroit. I remember as a kid crying in the living room after they would always get beat down by Detroit. Like I would cry like a baby because I wanted Michael Jordan, and I didn't start off liking Michael Jordan. I knew he was the best player, but I didn't really like him right away. And so I saw how Detroit was beating him down so bad, but he was still managing to still show his dominance. And I mean, that last championship, that even before the last one, but the last one just kind of like solidified it for me that Michael Jordan is the undeniable GOAT. Plain and simple. No players that I've ever seen is better than Michael Jordan. I mean, we can say Kobe Bryant's very close, but I'm sorry, man. I mean, Kobe was an assassin, but Michael Jordan was the serial killer.
Nice. Byron, what you got?
I remember that season. I was in high school, showing my age. I was like 15. But you just kind of knew it was going to come to an end. You could kind of feel it. So I wanted to watch as many games as I could because, I was younger when they had the first three-peat. So like Allana said, everything wasn't as memorable, but you just greatness. There was just a lot of like, excitement. So many things were going on at the same time. You know what I mean? As far as like that were just pulling you in, like, even like them playing overseas and just seeing Michael just dominate. It was just like, wow, let's see what's going to happen, this season. I was really hoping that they would play the Rockets that year. That I was really betting on. I was like, okay, John Stockton hit that jumper. He ended it for the Rockets. But I was like, this is going to be their year, and we're going to finally get that Bulls Rockets matchup. Unfortunately, it never happened. But the documentary was like, I really loved how, it showed different aspects, like his mom reading the letter that he wrote her in college. That was just awesome to see this man who's almost 60 and his mom is, still alive. And, it's like it kind of humanizes him a bit because we see him as like such just like almost like a deity. But it's like his mom is just like so unfazed by the hype. You know what I'm saying? To her, it's not like it's Michael Jordan. It's like, oh, this is my son. Like, it just really, really, really made him look human. It was like probably like his mom would call him like, and he's like, Mom, you coming home for Christmas? Nah, not this year, son. I'm busy. Like, I got other kids too. I'm Larry this year. It just made him look human for once. Yeah. So it was really cool to see that.
Honestly, I was kind of surprised at that because, obviously I was hyped for this. It's MJ. I'm from Chicago. Like, there's no basketball, so I'm dying over here. But I don't think I was expecting to like it as much as I did. Like, even 5 to 10 minutes in, I was like, okay, yeah, I could literally watch all 10 episodes tonight. Whereas I was kind of expecting more just like him showing his basketball skills and like almost it being like overdone in terms of like trying to silence like, the Kobe fans or the LeBron fans, but it totally blew me away, to Byron's point. So I feel like we're all totally on the same page there.
What would today's equivalent be to please send me some stamps? I was trying to think on that last night and I'm like, I don't know. Because I'm like
gas money?
Venmo me some gas money. Something.
Yeah, I've definitely done that.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I could really come up with. Matt, what was your thoughts?
Well, I don't like Byron knows this. I don't know how many other people know, but like I lived in Chicago, like the suburbs, Park Forest, Illinois. His first, I think 5 seasons, I was living there. My dad's in Beecher. So, I grew up around the game and I didn't get to go, but he used to sit court, like right behind the Bulls bench at the old Chicago Stadium. Him and my grandpa, they would go to the games and stuff. But watching this was just, it like brought back so many memories.
You got to tell him how he got those seats, Matt. Explain that part.
My dad actually used to live next door to Doug Collins, who was the coach of the Chicago Bulls, right before Phil Jackson. Mm-hmm. My grandmother babysat Chris Collins. Baby. Dang. They lived in Bloomington, Illinois, and Doug, he went to Illinois State, which is in Bloomington Normal. So yeah, that's how my dad and my grandpa used to go to the games. But it just brought back a memory of game. I'm thinking going into Game 7 that year against the Pacers, and I'm nervous as shit. Like I went to church that day, and Mr. Elliott, the pastor at the church, is giving his spiel and doing his thing, and all I'm sitting there. And I hope God forgives me. I'm like, man, fuck, I hope the Bulls win today. Like, I'm literally in church watching this feel, and this is what's going through my mind. I did not want them to lose. Like that, like, it was just, like, I was nervous as hell that day. Byron, I know you the all-time Michael Jordan fan, even bigger than myself. I know you remember that.
Well,
you remember those feelings.
Well, I was starting to think Mike was losing it because people remember he was doing that commercial. They told me I could no longer fly, and he jumped from the free throw line when he was like 34. But you could tell that he was fatigued because I think it was game 6 of that series, the Indiana series. He was trying to win the game and he slips. And he's screaming for a foul. And my little brother is like tearing up. No, they foul. He's like 7, 8. And he's like crying. That's a foul. They fouled Michael Jordan.
Are we talking about Aaron? Are we talking about Aaron? Byron, are we talking about Aaron or Brenton?
Shout out to Aaron, but my youngest brother Brent. Shout out to Aaron though, since you brought it up. But he's like in tears. He's like crying, and the game ends, and it goes to a 7th, and I'm watching the replay, and I'm looking for a foul too, and my heart is broken, and I finally tell my young brother, I'm like, hey, bro, that wasn't a foul. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was clean. So we had never seen Mike like, well, with the exception of 92 when the Knicks took him to 7. But in his prime, we didn't see him go 7 games. So I was definitely nervous because Reggie Miller was playing like at another. I mean, the way that guy was playing that series was like phenomenal.
What game was it? Was it game 3 or 4 that Reggie hit the game winner?
That was game 3 because I think they were.
It was one of those in
game 3. Yeah, that was game 3.
The Bulls were winning the game. And Reggie hit the 3. He came off that screen and hit the 3. I remember that. I was going to say one thing real quick about the documentary. Just one talk, just randomly, like that scene with Scottie Pippen and Charles Oakley, where Charles Oakley slapped the shit out of Scottie.
Oh yeah,
I was in tears.
You ain't messing. You not.
And I told that to Byron.
But you're not messing with
told
Charles
Byron,
Oakley,
I was like, Byron, I know. Please tell me you were in that scene. No, I told Byron. I said, Byron, please tell me you were in tears on that scene. He was like, no, I already saw that. I'm like, what? Byron saw that already. He's seen the footage.
I've seen that before. Yeah, that's actually old footage.
Yeah.
But everybody knows that Charles Oakley was the most feared man in the NBA. So it doesn't surprise me.
No. For me, being a lifelong Sixers fan from Philadelphia, I did not want to see Michael Jordan win. So when they beat Indiana in Game 7, I cried because I didn't want to see them in the finals personally. I mean, they jumped out. Indiana jumps out to a huge lead in the first quarter. You know, they get their ass kicked in the second quarter. Second half kind of goes up and down. Michael Jordan just willed them, to the finals. And I had, as much as I hated the Bulls because they won so much and my Sixers sucked, especially in the late 90s, you had to respect Michael Jordan and just everybody on the team. For the documentary purpose, I liked it that they kind of jumped back and forth and showed different aspects of Jordan's life and just kind of his upbringing and the rapport with his mom, UNC days. And that kind of takes me into the second question I wanted to ask everybody. Obviously, early on at UNC, Jordan hits the game winner, kind of gets put on the map, as one of the best players in the country. That leads into coming into the NBA with high expectations. Obviously, everybody's going to debate. You had Hakeem. He wasn't Hakeem at the time. Olajuwon got drafted 1.
Right, Hakeem.
Yep. Sam Bowie got drafted 2. They drafted him because they had Clyde Drexler already at the 2 guard, so they needed a center. Jordan falls to 3 to the Bulls, and he walks into the traveling cocaine circus his first season.
I need that on a t-shirt. Like, honestly, someone just put a t-shirt and I'll give you full credit on any platform you want. Like, I just need that on a freaking t-shirt.
Allana, I wanted to go to you. How do you feel how do you feel like that the traveling cocaine circus thing, all of that kind of transpired in his rookie season? How do you think that shaped MJ's demeanor, not only for that season, but just throughout his career?
I mean, I think that speaks to his character. I think people can say what they want about him in terms of being arrogant or whatnot, but like the fact that he was able to put all that BS aside and just kind of keep grinding out, especially for a rookie. I feel like the pressure that was probably on him, outside, like off the court in terms of his teammates trying to, get him into trouble or like become a part of that culture. I think it's like a huge testament to his work ethic and just the fact that he was there to play ball and to be the best, and he wasn't distracted by anything. So like, obviously, I think everyone was kind of shocked by that term and like calling it that, but I'm not surprised that that's what was going on, but B, I'm also not really shocked that he was able to kind of put that to the back burner and kind of do his own thing. Because I don't think that if you had a different type of personality, if you were someone who was persuaded easily, I don't think you could have been, nearly half the player he was, let alone, at the caliber that he was at. And also, from my experience, I have heard enough stories about even the Bulls, back in like the Ron Artest days of things that were going down. So that was a hilarious way to put it. But on the other hand, like I said, I'm not really shocked that that's what was going down. I mean, like, honestly, Artest used to come just completely drunk to practices and games, and he's been kicked out of the Berto before, and doors were broken and glass was shattered. I mean, this stuff I've heard has been pretty wild. So I mean, good for MJ, obviously, but again, like, I'm not surprised because he couldn't have become the guy he was if he gave into all that.
Nice. What do you think, Greg?
I think it shows Michael Jordan's maturity, even being young. I think it also showed his dedication to not just basketball, but just being successful in his life and not willing to carry that type of baggage on. I mean, there's a lot of peer pressure being a young guy on a basketball team, and they expect you to carry the franchise. And all these other guys on the team are involved in this so-called cocaine circus or whatever. And you actually turn that down, having fun, and say, you know what, I'm going to go the other way. So it kind of shows that he has a level of maturity, and I don't want to say just maturity, but it's like a mental and kind of a spiritual maturity almost, because it's kind of hard to do. Like, like, just think about peer pressure. It's so easy to be peer pressured into something when everybody else is having fun, and it seems like to do the right thing is not the most celebrated thing. And I mean, he actually turned the other cheek and said, okay, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to focus on basketball and focus on being great. At that age, I mean, man, it shows heart and it shows will.
Nice. What do you think, Byron?
Well, it reminded me a lot of hearing about Kobe Bryant when he came to the Lakers. That was the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
How, everyone was definitely he was the youngest one there, barely 18, and there was such an age gap, a really generation gap, and also it just shows the times. Like, people who want to do all these comparisons, but in the 80s, cocaine was like, I don't know what like Molly or Percocets are to like these kids today. And it has always been a rich people drug. So they're NBA players, that's going to be their go-to like drug. I guess in that time, you smoking weed is like, they're looking, if you smoke, if you're a pothead, they're looking at you like, here he come with his Camel cigarettes. He don't know about this coke yet? Like, let's put him on the game.
Right.
It shows the determination, and it speaks on the upbringing that he had, what his late father and his mother, how they raised him. It really speaks on that, and just how determined he was to play basketball. Like, from day one, he came to play. He didn't care about the things that come with being a professional athlete. All of that stuff, like, the fame, the one, whatever, it's a byproduct of the success of making it that far. So it just really speaks on his iron will and his determination and his maturity.
Nice. Matt, any thoughts?
Well, for those who don't know, I played for Orlando Woolridge, and he was on these teams. So when they mentioned the cocaine train, we all know Coach Orlando's past, and we know all the cocaine. So I was like, okay, it's true. But when I played for Coach Orlando, just a heads up, he had been sober for 10 years, so he was not on that shit back and this was in 2007 when I played for Coach Orlando. But I just wanted to throw that out. But we all know his past with the cocaine and the drugs and all that stuff. So when they brought it up, I laughed. And we saw little clips of Orlando. He wasn't speaking, but he was in there. But here's the crazy thing. So Mike comes in, and this reminds me of when I was in college in Northern California. I went to this party. You had the weed people in one section. You had the ravers over here. You had so Mike's like, yeah, over here you had the people smoking weed. Then you had the lines over here. Then you had the women over here. And I got to say, for a young dude, I'm sure I think he was single at the time. Like, I mean, the women in there, and he still left. He was still like, "This isn't for me."
Yeah, that was crazy. Just
like,
seeing.
And we know how young
demeanor.
people can be.
Yeah.
So man,
yeah.
Which line did you go in?
I was literally about to ask that.
Oh man.
No.
Man, I know you didn't turn around and walk out.
I've never done drugs a day of my
No. That is like actually I was by the cold cuts.
I was in
Redding,
California. I was actually in Redding, California, in Northern California. So honestly, like we didn't even get there. Like I wasn't even gonna go, but one of my roommates, he had lied to us. So me and my other buddy Taquan, we were like, okay, Aaron's gonna lie to us. Yeah, I put his name out there.
So you
went in there to see, like, okay, let's see. No, I'm not there. So like literally like 20 minutes, literally within 10 minutes, this was at a house. No. Yeah, Byron knows this story. I like literally like 10, 15 minutes after we were there, and I've never smoked weed, none of that in my life, not even a cigarette. But so we hear a knock on the door, and it's the cops. And mind you, there's like 200 people here at this house party. So me and my guy Quan, we just run out the back window and run into the trees.
Golly.
Yes. So I did not do anything.
You ain't got to lie to me. I know. Just his name alone.
No, Quan did not smoke. He did not smoke.
Then they asked Matt. It's like, you want some weed, Matt? He's like, nah, man. I'm over here with this chip and dip. I'm good. Y'all go
ahead. For me, it was interesting because I'd read an article a few years ago by George Gervin. Everybody knows, he was great for the Spurs, played his last season for Chicago. Well, he had played overseas, quite a bit, before coming to the Bulls. And he gets to the Bulls, they're in practice. He's kind of going lackadaisical, not really trying. Michael Jordan's in full sweat, going full force up and down, just like he was in a game, dunking, doing everything. George Gervin tells Michael Jordan, slow down, young fella. And Michael Jordan said, sit your old ass over there. And, you're talking to basically George Gervin that way. And George Gervin came back and said, that's when I knew, nobody knew that Jordan was going to be the greatest of all time, but that's when I knew that the kid had it. Basically the demeanor to just, go full throttle, go at it, no questions asked. And, for me, I wouldn't have been able to turn any of that stuff down. So kudos to him. Coming in that room and doing his thing on the court. But want to jump into Jerry Krause for our next subject. Everybody that doesn't know, he died in 2017, so he can't defend himself now. Kind of got, painted in a bad light, so to speak, whether that's justified, it's up to everybody's interpretation. But he had a bunch of key acquisitions for putting the team together. The original three-peat, he traded Oakley for Cartwright. That gave them the size to win. Kind of cleared the team out. Revamped it to get to the second three-peat. Based on the episodes of 1 and 2, Allana, do you think it's justified? Kind of the hate that he's getting. What he did to Scottie Pippen as far as the back and forth. Do you think it was justified Jordan kind of going at Jerry Krause and just kind of that battle that played out in the media, or what's your thoughts towards what you saw?
I mean, it's tough because obviously there's 1,000 sides to every story. I also think that you can be good at your job and accomplish great things, but also be a shitty person. So I think from a business perspective, he obviously knew what he was doing. He did a lot of good for the organization, but I do think that kind of the way they portrayed him and not really caring much about the players beyond, them making the organization what it is. I think that was justified. I don't really believe that his quote was taken out of context. I think he thought that he was running shit and that, it didn't matter who was on the team. It was going to go that way anyway. I don't think he's necessarily probably any different than a lot of people in the league in that position, especially at that time. And obviously it's no secret right now that the front office, sucks still. So I think I just think the Bulls have this really unfortunate situation where their front office or members of the front office are never going to be what they should be. I think he was probably good at what he was doing, but I don't think he really valued the players in the way that he should. I will fully admit, I actually didn't really realize how underpaid Scotty was at that time. I think just based on my age, like that wasn't really something that I was thinking about. And then kind of moving forward, like I never really went back to like, I knew he was underpaid on the team, but like when they threw out that comparison that he was like 133rd or whatever in the entire league. So knowing that, like, yeah, I think that them portraying him in such a negative light made sense when your second best player and like such a star in the league overall is being paid so poorly and just treated like he was. I saw a hilarious tweet, something about like Scotty basically just wanted to have himself a hot girl summer. And like, that was just like, that was in a nutshell to me. I'm like, good for you, you know, like fucked you. So you fucked him right back. Like, yeah, I think it's unfortunate he's not allowed to defend himself because I do think that's kind of, it's one-sided, but at the same time, like history kind of speaks for itself there.
I'll say this just to give my quick thoughts because I have a ton. I would take Jerry Krause over, Gar Forman and John Paxson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll say that. But Greg, I know you have some thoughts because you hated, Gar Forman and John Paxson. Do you think, Jerry Krause was worse in that aspect, or do you think, what do you think?
I think Jerry Krause knew how to put talent together on the floor and develop a championship team. I just think with Jerry Krause, I think is part of it is a matter of his ego got in the way. You know, he felt underappreciated as opposed to just letting the players play and just put the product together on the floor and just keep winning championships. He pretty much wanted to prove that he was the man that was putting these teams together. He wanted to put his stamp on the team to show that, hey, I put this together. And I knew that he knew that he couldn't touch Michael Jordan. And only thing he probably could meddle with was probably Phil. And Scotty was kind of too good to like really meddle with because they had such good chemistry with Michael Jordan. So, okay, I'll get Scotty with the contract probably. Or I'll just piss Scotty off while I have him on his bad contract. But part of it too, watching the documentary, I kind of don't feel bad for Scotty because Scotty said out of his own mouth, he said like he took the contract or something like that to that effect that he took it because he wanted to secure his future. If I think that's what
correct.
His words were. He wanted to secure his future. I mean, 7 years, $18 million. I mean, everybody else was getting a big brown paper bag of money. Scotty had a sandwich bag with nickels and dimes. So it's kind of bad business on Scotty's part too, because even Jerry Reinsdorf, they said, what did you have to say when Scotty when they offered Scotty the deal? Jerry Reinsdorf said, I wouldn't take that deal. I just wait.
Turn it down. Yeah.
I'll turn it down. And so I knew Scotty, I believe that Scotty obviously knew it wasn't the best deal, but I think he was just in a rush just to get secure long term, that he didn't want to wait it out. So part of that, he kind of rushed into it. So which part of it is his own fault. He really couldn't be mad, because he signed the paperwork. Nobody forced him. So
I do think the difference between like Pax and Gar too is that I actually don't think they give a shit about the organization. I think they're getting paid, and if they have a job, they don't care. Whereas Krause, like, even though he wanted more of the recognition, he did actually care and did want a winning organization. So I don't think you can fault him as much as you can Gar Pax. Yeah,
I agree with that. Now, luckily they're both gone. So hopefully that, they can turn it around, going forward, or franchise can. The thing I think for me, with Scotty, obviously, they had a chance, I think earlier, like, the 93-94 season, they could have, worked something out. The fact that they, kind of waited, Scotty felt like, look, I'm still getting the guy, getting everybody to, through the playoffs and we have a chance to win a championship. I should be paid. The problem is back then they didn't have the luxury tax and, all of that. So it's like, how are you going to navigate this and make it work? So I kind of see, Greg, like you said, Scotty signed the contract. You got to honor it. It was up to the Bulls organization to kind of throw an extra hand out and say, hey, look, we're going to reward you, for this. What was interesting for me is I remember that they kind of broke down, Jerry Krause wanted to blow the team up, prior to that season. And we would have never had, the 97-98 Bulls. But it's just interesting how Jerry Krause is like, well, I did this for the organization. When you fast forward a few years, here comes, Elton Brand, really good for the team, trades him away for Tyson Chandler. You pair him with Eddie Curry, who was a hometown kid from Thornwood, good player, but you could tell when Eddie was in high school that he didn't dominate and wasn't, a kid that was going to, go the extra mile. You pair those two, and it kind of, adds extra context to kind of his rebuilding theory. Byron, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think he's a better GM than Daryl Morey. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm taking over.
I'm here for it.
I'll tell you that much. I mean, he somewhat deserves to be dragged. I mean, I'm very like, let's not talk too, let's give him a break because he's not here to defend himself. I'm all of that. I'm from that school. You really speak dead. They can't really defend themselves. But in his defense, I'll say this: he is the one that brought in Pippen. He finessed that. I mean, he worked that whole trade out. He had Seattle draft him, and he also brought in Horace Grant. He really brought a lot of the pieces in with the foundational piece, like and the Cartwright trade. I mean, the trade Oakley. They would not have won without Cartwright. They were not going to win as constructed with Oakley. So, I mean, I'll start off with that. Now I'm gonna get on the ego a little bit. You don't make a statement like, "Oh, teams don't win championships, GMs do." Like, no, that's out of line because I think his whole mentality is like, okay. I think what he wanted to do was say, okay, I'm gonna prove to Krause or to the world or whoever that I can construct another team that's just as good and build another dynasty. Well, I mean, Michael Jordan is like Haley's Comet. That don't come every, you know what I mean? Like it's not when you have something as rare as like my brother said before. We were talking about Michael Jackson and the talent he had. He was like, "Can you blame Joseph?" He said, "What would you do if Michael Jackson?" He's not right into success. And the same thing with Michael Jordan. It's like you don't find a unicorn and sell them for you don't do that. You know what I mean? So I mean, Scott. This is what I gotta say about Scotty. He was petty for sabotaging the start of that season. He signed a contract. Nobody put a gun to his head and made him sign a contract. After GM, you're supposed to cut costs. Not to the extent that Krause did. You don't cheat somebody. You don't pay them. You got to take care of your company. But I'll say this too. Jamel Hill made an interesting point. She was like, she said on Twitter, Nike offered Magic Johnson like stocks. He didn't know what stocks were. So he signed to the Converse because they can give him that tangible, like instant gratification, like we'll guarantee you this now. Look at his beginning. Look at the youngest of how many kids? 14, something like that. Look what happened to his dad. Look what happened to his brother. He needed something like he needed a right now. He's like, okay, I need this money right now so that I can address the needs of my family. Sometimes, like when I was in Chicago for All-Star Weekend, people, the locals were saying stuff about because I ended up meeting them, but that's for another podcast. But they said something like he had a bad reputation for not tipping and not. Sometimes you can be in poverty for so long that you come into wealth, but the mentality is still poverty. It hasn't caught up to wealth. So I think him signing that contract is a prime example of his mentality was very still like poverty because he went so long with not having. This is a guy who 6'1", as an 18, 19-year-old kid going into college, and he grew like, significant, 6 inches. You know what I mean? It's like you have to look at this. The underdog, he came from nothing. Height came to him literally like overnight, over a summer. Things came to him fast. He had to make some decisions, and I feel like he did what was the best for him in that season. And I don't think it was just a Scottie Pippen decision. It was like, okay, my mom, my dad, if his dad was losing, my brother. That decision was like for his whole family. So that's my take on it.
This person, but did you see what his ex-wife tweeted?
No, I didn't. What'd she say?
basically like highlighted some article that was written about Scotty, talking about how much he made over his career, or like over the beginning of his career or something. I can't remember the exact stat, but it was like because of all the endorsements and stuff that he was getting anyway, like he was getting paid. And she said, she just retweeted that and was like, he did just fine. I'm like,
that's so petty.
Then that's payment.
Are we talking about Larsa Kardashian?
Excuse me. Yes.
If
I
anybody,
actually went to school with Scotty's oldest daughter, who has since gotten into a ton of trouble. I don't know if you guys have followed any of what she's been doing. She literally she had 2 public intoxication situations because she peed in a lobby or some shit. But anyway, my point was that in terms of his contract, I feel like they didn't touch upon any endorsements that he made. So I'm just curious about how that played into it. Not necessarily the first year or the second year even, but just over the longevity of his career. I'm wondering how much, because I remember some Tang commercial that he was in. He endorsed a lot of stuff. So I thought that kind of helped him out financially too.
But you also have to look at this as well. He definitely had endorsements, but I think what magnified his little contract was that his teammate, his running mate, is getting $30 million a year. So I think, but before then, it's where was that energy before Michael came back and demanded his worth? You sold yourself short. He knows he's a unicorn. He knew he was a unicorn.
Yeah. Matt, any thoughts?
Jerry Krause. My thoughts on Jerry Krause is he was the ultimate fucking little man's disease guy. Was 5'3". That's what it was. He was just fucking little man's. Really. That's my thoughts on it. Scotty, he signed the contract and all that. You still got to help the guy out. Because we saw what happened when Michael retired. It's what was Scotty, third in MVP voting?
Mm-hmm. What
he was third in MVP.
I think so. That's dating me now, but I think so.
I believe it was Hakeem, David Robinson, and Scotty.
That sounds right. I can fact check it later. Allana, I wanted to ask you, what do you think how did that trade demand that Scotty basically publicly on the bus screaming at Jerry Krause, how do you think that the delay of surgery, the trade demand, how do you think all of that played a part in the season itself?
I think anytime something like that goes down, it's a distraction. It doesn't matter how good you are or how used to winning you are. It's hard to kind of shake that off. I think, so even though obviously they were led by Michael, they were a pretty good unit, a cohesive unit going into that season. And I think that pivoting about himself definitely deterred from their success. I don't think it's a coincidence that obviously him being injured didn't help their success either, but I do think it was on mentality too. Do I necessarily fault him though? It's kind of hard to say because he sold himself short in the beginning, but hindsight's 2020. And I feel if he felt a certain type of way in that moment, who am I to say that he shouldn't have spoken out about that? I feel I personally am a very outspoken person. I feel it'd be super hypocritical for me to sit there and be he should have just accepted his contract. But it definitely, it had an impact on the team. There's no way that it couldn't. First of all, you're physically not there, right? You're choosing to have the surgery. So that already messed with them. But I think from a mentality perspective, it became it just became the Scottie Pippen show for a while there instead of trying to, achieve the team goal of winning again. So
what would you have done? Would you have delayed surgery or would you have gotten it done earlier?
I would like to say I would have done the right thing, but we're all petty in our own way. If I was feeling a certain type of way, I would have just gone ahead and did best for me. I think
we want a little petty Murphy in us.
Right? We're all there's a little pettiness in us all. I think it depends on how bad I was at that time. I think it's obviously a team sport, and that's a cliche, but at the same time, they have to look out for themselves. And he didn't get to where he is, by not being true to himself and working hard and whatever. So I don't really fault him for that. I'd like to say I do the right thing, but I probably wouldn't have. So,
Greg, what's your thoughts?
Me personally, see, I'm just one of those type of people. I would try my best to do the right thing, but I guess it will be kind of hard working in an environment where they don't want to pay you. They're threatening. They're talking about trading you. So in that case, I probably would be petty as heck too.
Byron,
yeah, I would definitely.
It. Yeah, I think he was trying to do too. Like, let's see how y'all do without me, and it makes sense. Like when they won the chip, he was crying. I remember being 15, like, why is he crying like that? Because no, for real, because he knew it had come to the end, and he partially taken it for granted. Because think about it, 95, 96, 72, I think they had like what 69 wins in 97, 96, 97, and without Scottie Pippen, they started out 0-4, and they still had 62 wins with him missing like almost 40 games. So they really turned it around. You gotta think about it. That's impressive. With like their second best player gone, and they still finished with the 60 plus win season. Come on, it was petty, but I think I see people do that in my job. Like,
I mean, for me, I feel like if you look around and you're looking at some poor bench player that's terrible, and they're making more than you just because they might have had a season or two that was good, gotten paid, and then you're one of the best players, not just on your team but in the NBA in general. That really rubs you the wrong way, and I think that got intensified by Jerry Krause's reaction. That's what set it off. I don't think it was necessarily. I think if Jerry Krause had been like, "Hey, be patient, we'll work with you, whatever," I think that would have went a certain way. But the way he belittled him and talked down to him, Scottie came back in defense and did his own thing, whether right or wrong. Who's to say? But I mean, me personally, it would have just got tiring saying, "Look at all I've accomplished, and you're not getting rewarded for it." But
I think it's not only not getting rewarded, but like to your point, you're not even being appreciated, right? Like you're not getting rewarded. You're basically being like, "We're going to trade you," so you're appreciated completely. You're not. It's like, thanks for all that you've done. Now here's the door. So I find it hard to believe that anyone would have done any differently than Pippen did in that moment, especially just because of the way that he was being treated.
And it wasn't just Scottie that he had trades lined up with, and that was the thing that got me. I didn't know that part of it, that he actually had deals on the table from various teams to trade various players on that team. Obviously not Michael Jordan, but it would have been probably, nearly everybody else on the team. So I don't know. Let's see. Allana, I'm going to go to you. And you have any, final thoughts, anything that we didn't cover that you want to kind of talk about from the first two episodes, and then let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, I think what I am like kind of bracing myself for is said something about like he's afraid everyone's going to hate him after this, but I actually think, like we've been saying, it kind of humanized him so far. Obviously it's just part 1 and 2, and there's plenty, footage left, but I was surprised by that. So I am kind of curious to see why he thought that, because I actually think he comes off pretty well so far. So I'm just excited to see that. In terms of where you find me, I'm on Twitter. It's just Allana Tachauer, Tachauer. Same across Instagram and whatever else. So thanks for having me on. It's been really fun.
No, thank you for coming on. Greg, what's any final thoughts? Anything you want to add? And where can the people find you?
My final thoughts, I mean, the documentary is wonderful. Everybody, please check it out. You can find me on Twitter at Greg Griffith 137. And you can find me on Facebook at Greg Griffith.
Nice. Byron, any final thoughts? And let everybody know where they can find you.
Well, final thoughts. I don't even think that we need another 8 episodes to determine who the GOAT is. I think you could have watched 30 minutes of the first one, and it's evident. It should be crystal clear.
I've been waiting for one of you to say something.
I
I wasn't going to say it.
mean, I've seen Michael play in person. I've seen Kobe. I've seen LeBron. And basketball has not been the same since that guy entered the league. And the rest of them, I mean, they're great. They can simultaneously be great. But there's only one Michael Jordan, and no one has had a career like this guy. I really, I think he's savage, but I think that, Kobe is just as savage as he is. The only difference is he didn't have the luxury to not have social media or, sound bites to expose how savage he was to his teammates. So far, so good. Fantastic. Thanks for having me. You can find me at RADREMM on Twitter and on Instagram.
Nice. I think for me, just kind of final thoughts, it just shows across the board, just Michael and just the impact he had. Because obviously I'm a Sixers fan. I'm an Iverson, I love Iverson, everything that Iverson did for the Sixers organization. But even Iverson, McGrady, Kobe, anybody you want to name that was the so-called heir to Michael Jordan is never going to be able to touch Michael Jordan's legacy. By far the best player, to me, put in the most effort. And yeah, if you got on your teammates, Scott Burrell, Rip Hamilton, any of them along the way of the Bulls or Wizards, era, and you had to ride them to make them better, so be it. I'd rather have somebody ride me and, push me than settle and we lose. So, that's, just my thoughts on it. But Allana and Greg, thank you, both for coming on. We're going to jump to our second part of the episode, which we have, a couple guests coming on that can talk about the more like the Utah Jazz part of, sides of things, and just, also talk about the documentary, of course. But I'll wait till Matt's able to swap everybody in to introduce them. But I think, the documentary as a whole, more than, satisfied me, for the loss of basketball, basically the last month. Who knows if we're going to have a season, when it comes back. But jumping into our guests, for anybody that doesn't know, two of our guests on here, we have Mike Morris. Mike has actually been on the podcast in the past. Mike is a Colorado State alum. In my opinion, one of the best to play at Colorado State, but I'm sure he'll agree with that. We've also got his brother Sean, also played at Colorado State and Houston Baptist University. And then we've got Charlie Jones, who played at the University of Houston. For anybody that doesn't know, Mike and Sean, their father was Chris Morris, who played in the NBA for the New Jersey Nets, and of course on the Utah Jazz, both finals teams. So just wanted to kind of get a
real quick.
Yeah.
All three of them were high school teammates. All three of them were high school teammates as well.
See, there's why you should have did the intro, because you know that.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Shout out to Single Ranch High School.
Yes, sir.
But we wanted to kind of, for this part of it, we wanted to get the unique perspective, obviously, Mike and Sean, of kind of what you saw being around your dad and the Jazz side of things, kind of going from the 97 finals, kind of leading throughout that season. Seeing Michael Jordan kind of take that championship away from your dad, not only once but twice. But just from a player's perspective as well, and Charlie, of course, you as well. Wanted to dive in. Mike, I'll go to you first. What was your thoughts on episode 1 and 2? What from a player, kind of coach that you are now, what was your kind of perspective seeing all of that? Was there anything that you saw that you didn't know previous?
There's a lot of stuff in there. Just how I like really to begin. I liked how they went from all the way back to 82 with MJ, all the way up to 97, 98. Just knowing all the crazy stuff that was going on in the background. to go in depth with it. Like Jerry Krause was a big part of everything that was going on, but I didn't know how in depth it was. But from the perspective of being there, that first 97 finals it was like, you have that team that gets happy they made the championship and doesn't really expect to win that thing, but even having that chance versus the next year, like it was a mission for them to get there and get that 1 seed and being able to be the home team. It was a crazy year, just top to bottom. There were so many different storylines.
Yeah. Sean, what about you?
I mean, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of the same. What I remember from that time is it was just, especially when the Bulls came to town, it was a rock show. It was so many people around, so many cameras. As soon as the ball comes up, all you're seeing is flashing lights everywhere. And Utah is already a crazy place to play. Bringing Michael Jordan in makes it even crazier. The doc, I mean, as far as the documentary went, I think it shot very well. I'd watch all 10 parts in one night if I could. But I mean that's just the way it is. Michael Jordan's so popular. They showed him walking in the gym, getting out of his car, and people are ready to go outside and play some basketball. So I mean, it's Michael Jordan. It doesn't get any bigger than Michael Jordan. I mean, but I would say the stuff that I did not know was the Scottie Pippen part. That was kind of my favorite part to see. Just he went to Central Arkansas. How good do you have to be to make it out of Central Arkansas, be a first-round pick? Them trade up to get you.
NAIA school.
Right.
And he didn't even make the initial team. He was like the equipment manager and ended up getting some spots,
Right.
because
How did that
players
happen?
were ineligible, which I didn't even know that. So that was interesting. Charlie, what was your thought kind of seeing everything for the first 2 episodes?
I think it's like almost everybody else, it just brought up so many great memories of you as a kid,
Right.
Everything you saw just made you feel like a kid again and made you remember why you fell in love with the game. I had a pretty unique situation because, Sean and Mike were like my best friends. Their dad played for the Utah Jazz. My parents were from Chicago, so I was a diehard Chicago Bulls fan.
Oh, man.
So they actually invited me up to Utah. We actually went to the finals game in Utah. I got to go as a little kid. So
nice.
In the back of your mind, you remember cheering for Michael Jordan in the back of your mind. But at the same time, your best friend
say it out loud. Yeah.
Kind of conflicted. So all the documentary did was just bring up his memories, man, of just why Michael Jordan just is so special to everybody that loves basketball. And you got to see him kind of human and just sit down and talk. And it was just fun. It was fun seeing all of it.
I hated
Good
that.
days, Chuck. Good days, huh?
Yes, sir.
Jerry Krause obviously got portrayed as, pretty much being a dick to the players and kind of had his own way about doing things. Mike, do you think it was, more accurate the way that he got portrayed, or do you think that, hey, it's business, this is kind of how we have to handle it, building a team?
There's a bit of both. Business, of course, he has a job, but also it's just the players' honest reactions because they're out there doing the job every day. They're working hard. You got your coaches that are doing a great job every day, doing video, scouting, putting together the triangle offense that nobody's known or seen. And you want to get out there and just jump in the mix. How many other GMs were doing that at the time? Like during the Celtics run, nobody cared about the GM who knew who the GM was for them. Pistons, same thing. Rockets GM at the time when they won the 2 championships, nobody knew or cared. But you want to put the best players in the world on blast. Not just Mike's the best player in the NBA yet, but he's the best player in the world. And if Scotty's number 2, that makes him the second best player in the world. Right. You want to put them on blast when they're making your organization what it is. Yeah, you're doing a great job putting pieces together, and that's great. But at the same token, nobody's paying to see you from your office. They're paying to see Mike, Scotty, and Phil. And of course, Scotty had the beef. That's because second best player in the world getting paid the 6th most on this team with like Luke Longley, Ron Harper, Tony Kukoc. No disrespect to them dudes, but if you got the third leading votes in MVP, I should be getting paid.
Agree. Sean, what's your thoughts?
I think he's deservingly viewed as he is, because I'm sure Krause was an asshole in real life. But to get to where he made it to, just like Michael Jordan, if you ask people in practice, was he an asshole? If you ask people back in high school, was I an asshole in practice? I'm sure you were. And the answer is yeah, I was. But for him to get to, if you think about it, Krause's record in the finals is the exact same as Michael Jordan in the finals. And in his head, he thinks that, or he thought that he put Michael Jordan on this team, he put Scottie Pippen on this team. He deserves just as much credit for putting that team together as Michael Jordan does. He makes a good argument. He has a good argument. And Michael Jordan made the documentary. He hates Krause. Pippen hates Krause. Of course, it's going to show him in a bad light. Of course, they're going to have them sitting all over Krause the entire documentary, probably in every single episode. So, I mean, maybe it's a little unfair. He can't really defend himself. I'm sure somebody in his family will come out and say something about it. But, I mean, for him to get to that level, to even put those people together, that coach, that MJ Pippen, to make the trades he did, to trade MJ's best friend. I mean, he's got to have some kind of ego, some kind of brass to be able to make those moves. I think he deserves a lot more credit than he's getting in this documentary, but I don't expect to see, anybody praise Jerry Krause in this, because he was an asshole. And sometimes you have to be an asshole, and most of the good GMs that we see are assholes. That's simple as put. I'm sure, and these days people will probably like him because he was in the whole analytics and doing stuff like that. So people like Bill Belichick, I'm sure they can find it in their hearts to like Jerry Krause too.
Charlie, what's your thoughts being a lifelong Bulls?
Yeah, I see where Sean's coming from, because you got to be a little hard to be able to be in the position that he's in. My biggest problem with him is, I look at it as a coach's perspective. When you're a coach, they always tell you, when you win, it's because of your players. When you lose, it's because of you. So he should have taken the same point as that, is when we win, it's because of the players. When we lose, I need to do a better job of putting a better product out on the court. But he, like everybody said, might have had that little man syndrome where he was always a little fat kid in school. Never got any credit. He probably never got picked at the park. He never got a chance to win any games. So his only chance to win would be with the team he put together, kind of like a 2K. The kids in 2K, they make their players all special now, and they can't do it themselves. So the only chance they have to do is to be able to create it. So I kind of see him as that. He never was able to play the game, so he wanted to get credit somewhere. And the only credit he could get was saying he's the reason that they won. Like they said, they haven't won ever since then. So.
All right, Mike, with Scottie, you touched on Scottie a little bit ago. With Scottie, obviously he could have had surgery, May of the prior, before the beginning of the 97-98 season. He delayed it. Obviously, the contracts disputes went public. The trade demand went public. What's your thoughts on that as a whole? And do you think Scottie Pippen was undervalued by management?
Definitely undervalued. Just the fact that he's the 122nd highest paid player in the league. When you're third in MVP and a constant all-star, you think that you would reward that. I get the contract situation and all that, but that's why they had the lockout in 99. The owners had way too much power. Long-term deals for little money. And then when the league exploded, owners are still getting paid, but the players are still trying to take the same little money that they were getting. And it's just, he was trying to take care of himself. Like, you do your surgery in the summer, come back and possibly get hurt again. Now you're really not making no extra money. You're not putting yourself in a position to take care of your family. And that's what he was looking into. Like, look, you guys want to play me, I'm going to play you the same way. And it's a lot of money, no matter what way you look at it. But at the same token, he wants to get paid as the player that he was. He saw Mike get paid. And really, people are all over Twitter talking about Mike wasn't taking care of Scottie. Mike had to demand that because Patrick Ewing was getting paid the most money in the league.
Yep.
He had to go set them straight like, yo, I'm worth this much. I'm not playing until I get that. If Patrick getting paid like that and I beat up on Patrick, Scotty just didn't have the leverage like Mike did. Mike left and was like, look, I'm not playing for less than 30. And that's just how he took it.
Yeah, what people don't realize, because I saw a lot of people throw out, well, they could have just thrown money at him. Like, it didn't – they would have had to have done it, in the 90 – basically before the 94-95 season, because the Michael, coming back and re-upping him, there was no luxury tax. The luxury tax didn't get put into the CBA until 99. Mike, you talked about the lockout, and that was one of the big things from the ownership side is like, look, if we're going to – have players, we have to be able to compete. And the players are like, look, we want to still get paid and you not take all the revenue. So, to be fair, like Allana touched on earlier, saying that Scotty, made his money basically back up, so to speak, in endorsements.
Cool.
I'm kind of torn with the fact that, Scotty wanted to secure his future early to make sure his family was taken care of. I get that, but the other side of things, the Bulls should have done right. And based on that 93-94 season, Solo still willing the Bulls along and really having a phenomenal season showed that he was worth that money. I think they should have worked something out. Sean, what's your thoughts on Scotty?
He signed the contract, so he knew what he was getting into at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was way, way undervalued as one of the top 5 players in the entire NBA. I would be pissed off if I was him too. But he knew what he signed and he knew what it said. The owner warned him that he's not going to renegotiate the contract. I think it shows Scotty's petty. Most of those great players are petty. Michael's petty. Scotty's petty. I texted my dad yesterday before the documentary aired and asked him if he was going to watch. He said no. That's all he texted back. Didn't give any context, just no. Didn't say nothing else. I said, I almost took some shots, but just those 2 letters alone, I just felt the hurt through text messages. I didn't want to poke the bear, so I just let it at that. Those NBA players are petty. They're great at what they do. There's only a handful of them that can get there or have been there. They're petty. So, that's just what Scotty is. I'm sure he would do the same thing today if you asked him, would he do anything different? He would not. I don't personally feel bad for him because he eventually got paid, but he signed the contract. He wanted Jordan money. He thought he was Jordan, and maybe he should have got it, but he signed a different contract. The only thing I can think about is if he did get that money, if he was getting that Jordan type of money, that Jordan type of love, I think, those Pippen shoes, he could have been up there for the best sneaker deal, because even now those shoes last the test of time. Those Pippens were cold. They were nice. Yes. I wish he would have kept coming out with a line of shoes. That's where he lost me. And when he came to the Rockets, he should have kept putting out the shoes, and he'd have been good.
But
Charlie,
what do you think? That's not MJ money is 30 mil.
Right.
Rodman was getting 9. Scotty getting 2.
He should have been getting
one. Find a middle ground between 30 and 2.
He should have been getting 1.
6, 7 at least.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I guess it's like Sean said. He signed the contract, and I kind of understand it. You come from humble beginnings. You might not have had a lot of money. He knew his family needed it. He had 2 people who grew up with him who were in wheelchairs, and he was trying to make sure they were taken care of. And he seems like a nice guy. He grew up kind of quiet, and nice guys sometimes always want to take care of their family. They don't always look out for themselves. And I don't think he looked out for himself at first. And then when it was time to look out for himself, it was a little bit too late. Jerry Krause said, "Hey, you signed a contract. I'm trying to build a team. When your contract's over, we'll see what we can do. But until then, you got to sleep in your bed you made."
And didn't Michael say, like once when you're with Reinsdorf, you sign that contract, you're not going back to it. The deal signed. There's no renegotiation. That's it.
I think MJ could have spoke up a little bit on behalf of Pippen just to make it seem like he was on his side, but Mike was just like, "Yeah, that's what he said. That's what it is."
You got to do your
Mike
thing,
is
player.
he's the most famous person, most powerful
Yeah.
person. He's like, yeah, I'm Switzerland in this thing. I'm
Well,
not on this
Mike
side.
is on that same side of the table now. He an owner, like, y'all, I ain't about to muscle me out no money. I've been there,
but he was getting paid.
Yeah.
He's watching his homeboy struggle for two.
He told him straight
yeah.
up, like, dude, don't sign no 7 years. It was the same 7 years Pop signed. Like, dude, don't sign 7 years.
Empathy.
But the interesting thing about Michael and Scotty is, people always say that was his boy. They were road dogs, but I don't really ever see them together. They talk about he should have stood up for him because that was his boy. I don't ever see their kids hang. You see Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. They're boys. They're family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're always together. You don't see any clips or pictures of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen anywhere together. And they might be cool, but you don't ever see it. So it's an interesting dynamic that you never see them together.
It's a billionaire dynamic because you see Mike with Magic, they hang out, they on boats in Spain somewhere. Scotty ain't there. Scotty got a different life.
Don't nobody want to hang out with Michael Jordan. Have you ever heard any good stories outside of this documentary about meeting Michael Jordan for the first time? Go ask a millionaire what happened when you try to introduce yourself to Michael Jordan. He don't respect nobody.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, man, to be that great, you got to have a lot of assholing. You want to be the best, that's usually what comes along with it.
I understand it.
I don't know who said it. Like when Mike came in the league, like he was going at like a prison. He was going at the top dude.
Mm-hmm.
Every time,
like prison. Like
shoot, even in college, Worthy was the man at UNC, and he was like, "Nah, we're gonna play one-on-one real quick. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna be the best player in this building."
Mm-hmm. What he did to the 85-86 Celtics, just the way he was able to do it. If he had more help on that team, I think he would. He could have. I don't think that he would have won the series, but I think he would have at least got 2 from him.
5. Yeah, he would have took it to 5.
Yeah, I think so.
Man. That 86 team, that might have been the best Celtics team, period.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the best Celtics
team. Team only won like 30 games.
But that's what I'm saying. If he had more help, had he had 1 or 2 other players, I think he would have been.
So Michael missed 64 games that year. They won 30. Yeah. If he plays 64 games, they win 50.
Yeah, they wouldn't have played Boston in the first round. I can agree with that.
They got way more than 30.
Yeah. All right, Mike and Sean, I wanted to kind of jump to and Charlie, you can touch on this obviously because you were around the Morris family, but what can you guys share just from the Jazz side of things from the 96-97 season, kind of how that went down. And don't jump to the finals because we haven't got to that part in the documentary. I don't want to jump too far, but just kind of leading into that season. What do you remember as far as being around your pops and what their mindset was and as a team and things like that? Mike, I'll go to you first.
For 96-97?
96-97 and then going into the 97-98 season. Just kind of both, kind of combining both.
Well, on a personal standpoint, it was like finally realizing how good these dudes really are. It was like we were in New Jersey for the first 7 years of my dad's career, and we're around. We get to see guys like Kenny Anderson, Derek Coleman, Drazen Petrovic, and we're like, man, these guys are all right. These are good. We lose in the first round. We get to Utah, and it's just like it's expected that you're gonna work and we're gonna make a deep run. We're trying to win a championship, not just make the playoffs. So it's not like you just pull up to practice like we did in New Jersey. It's like, nah, you got to have special circumstances, and Jerry got to sign off on you being able to just pull up to practice with your pops. And just going to games that year was unreal because you got Allen Iverson, Kobe coming into it. And at this point, when I saw Kobe work out, that was my favorite player. Even though for like a decade after that, I didn't like him at all. We had a little separate story in the next year's playoffs. But in 96, 97, you go through the playoffs and the energy's so different because New Jersey, we're losing first round. It's guaranteed. Cavaliers, Knicks, done. You get to Utah and it's like, all right, first round, it's just a tune-up. Dudes are focused, hyper-focused. It's a whole different level of everything. And even going up to the Rockets series where John hits the shot, we're involved every game. Like we're either at the Delta Center where it's nuts, it's crazy, it's super loud, or we're watching a game at like Brian Russell's house for Game 7 when they make the shot. We're going nuts over there. And then you realize you got to play Jordan. We watched that Game 7 where they beat the Pacers. Not after next year. I don't even know who they played in Game 7 in 96, 97.
They played the Heat in 96, 97.
They beat them in like
was it Miami?
Yeah. They beat them in like 5 games. So they were waiting on us. So, like getting ready for the Bulls, you're not sure what to expect. You've never been this far. Everybody's like beyond celebrating that what's up next. And when Jordan comes to town, because we didn't get to go 96, 97 to the Bull to Chicago. But when they came to town, just the show of like pulling into the parking lot, going up to see all these extra camera trucks, all these extra cameras, all these extra security. It's a different show. And they're just like, it's another day in the park for them. And we're like super energy. Carl and John are on another level. Pops is on another level. It was amazing just to know that I got to be around for all that mess. It was crazy.
Sean, what about you? I know you're a little younger than Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit younger, so I remember it a little bit differently. It was just another time to me. We had been doing this 7-8 years already in New Jersey, as Mike said. So I mean, that season. We had just moved to Utah. We hadn't been there that long. So, I mean, we were just kind of going to school. We go to the home games, and they won more. We knew that, they won. He was happier. And so, I mean, we're just out there going to school. We felt like normal, regular people. Even like Charlie would come out and visit us every now and then. We'd take him to games. We'd be in the back. I remember they had this big room in the back where all the family and friends would go. We'd just be back there either watching the game or getting sodas and stuff and running back into our seats. And that was about it. So, I mean, that season to me, it didn't seem like it was like a special season. They won 60-something games that year. So they were a hell of a team. We knew John Stockton was really good. We knew Karl Malone was even better. We knew Jeff Hornacek was a good shooter. Like, we knew every single player on the team. We would be in the back after the games during practice, waiting on the other teams to come so we could dap up Allen Iverson. We could sit there and say hey to Kobe. Like, we knew who Kobe Bryant was. But back then, it was easy to get to him. You could just walk up to Kobe and shake his hand, and he'd sit there and talk to you. But when the Bulls came to town, you cannot get close to anybody on their team. Like, you could walk past, you see all the cameras and lights and stuff back there, and like you may get a glimpse of Michael Jordan's bald head or something like that. And he may look up and catch eyes or something, but you can't get close to him. Like, the entire visitors locker room is packed with people. Utah Jazz side, it's a normal like local level side, but the Bulls was packed every single night. Every single time they came in there, whether it was what's that?
Could you talk to Shaq? Like, could you
No.
talk to Shaq?
Shaq
Like, I know
was
you
like
said you talked to Kobe. Like,
Shaq. What
Shaq
I
was like
remember,
Bulls.
Shaq, he was like the Bulls, like just Shaq. Like, I remember Orlando Shaq when he first got in the league. We were in New Jersey, and like we would be in the back like lounge, and it's like this is like peak '90s hip hop. Just people just in the back, random Kid and Play over there in the corner, Salt Pepper over here chilling. At Lovers at the game tonight. So we're just out there like, it's a regular day. But when Shaq comes, that lobby area is packed. Cameras, Shaq, and he's huge. Like, the largest person I've ever seen in my life is Shaquille O'Neal. Like, not tall, just a huge human being. He's so strong.
Yeah.
But I mean, Shaq is the only thing I can compare to Michael Jordan. Jordan was like nothing you ever seen before in your life. It's like going to a rap concert and all those camera phones are up. As soon as that ball tips, cameras. As soon as the lights go down and you hear that guy's voice, and now at the United
like going
Center,
to a Jay-Z.
at the United Center, that place was loud. Like I've never seen anything like that, heard anything like that. But those people loved Michael Jordan. They loved Chicago Bulls at that time. I mean, no place like Chicago at that time and Utah. Those people in Utah were crazy. Like they were standing out there in the cold, in the snow, crazy for hours.
I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I was a little different than Sean. Like I used to find a way. Like in New Jersey, I was a ball boy. Or in Utah, I would go early with Pops and act like I was a ball boy and go rebound for people. So I got a little closer to some people. I even got an autograph and like a little conversation with Shaq. But that was because I kind of snuck through there with Robert Ory. Like a lot of dudes I worked out with in the summer, if I knew them, I would run up on them real quick just to be like, let me slide with you right fast. Even though we had the ultimate access of being like, oh, we know all the security people. When the stars come to town, when it's Rolling Stones, you need your own personal security. And like having dudes like Rob and Nick Van Exel, I slide with them real quick. Like, hey, Rob, what's going on, man? Man, let me holler at you right fast. That's how I got my autograph from Shaq.
Nice. You see this? All that was so normal to Sean and Mike. And here I am, this little kid from Katy, hanging out with boys that are in the NBA. So I'm going to tell a funny story. We go up to Utah, and first I get to go to Karl Malone's house. And
man.
I'm sitting there like, I think I'm in probably maybe fifth or fourth grade. Like, oh my goodness. Fifth grade, this place is crazy. You're looking around, you've seen all these NBA wives, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm in heaven. You're seeing beautiful women, and they're all normal. Sean and Mike are like, oh man, what's up, man? This is Carl, this is Byron Russell, and I'm just in heaven. I remember we got to go to Byron Russell's house for the game when John Stockton beat the Rockets. We were at Byron Russell's house watching it with all the rest of the wives and the family. Everybody's going crazy. And man, I'll never forget those times. I mean, even though I'm a Michael Jordan fan to the death, for that week I was in Utah, I was a Utah Jazz kid. It was nothing that you can't explain it to anybody. You had to be a part of it. But all this documentary did was bring back those times, man, make you feel like a little kid all over again.
Mike and Sean, if you guys can't, that's fine. But I wanted to ask you anything that you could share that your pops told you story wise. I know he's, obviously a little still pissed off about the way things kind of went, both years. But at the same time, anything that he could, you could share that maybe he told you as far as stories, leading into the finals for the second time, even if it's just something small.
Man, going into the finals the first time, he hadn't been that far, so he didn't say a whole lot. He was just man, trying to get in, trying to make his way to crack the lineup a little bit. I remember I hope it was the first finals. He actually got in a little bit, and it was like Brian was in trouble, Sham was in foul trouble. And he got stuck on Jordan a couple times. And he's doing what he can. That time you can grab people and hold them if you sly about it. And he's like, man, my chest hurt. I was like, what's going on? He's like, man, I was holding Mike. I was like, yeah, I saw you out there guarding. He's like, no, I was holding him. Mike elbowed him in the chest to try and get loose. And he was like, yeah, it kind of hurt. It was like right before the half. I was like, oh, okay. Like, he just elbowed you like that? He's like, yeah, it's Michael Jordan. They're not going to call nothing. He's like, was it Dick Bavetta was standing right there? He didn't say nothing. He just let him loose.
No,
like, well,
I never really brought it up.
Let him go.
Right. I never really brought it up. And I think I'm a little biased because, I mean, as a little kid you're watching your dad play against the greatest athlete you've ever seen in your life. And you just think, I mean, he's the greatest of all time. Jordan misses a shot. Oh, Dad's guarding him. Oh, my dad's the best player I ever seen in my life. Why is he getting taken out?
Yes.
He just made a jump shot 3 minutes ago, but I didn't see him get beat by MJ 30 seconds ago. Like, as a little boy, your dad's out there playing against Jordan. He playing with Karl Malone and John Stockton. They're all everywhere you go. You hear Malone, Stockton, Malone. Those two own Utah. So I mean, everywhere you go, you go to school, kids, your dad plays with Karl Malone. Yeah, he does. It's just, I mean, to us, he works for Utah. He works for the Jazz. But that's all I would ever say. He just works for the Jazz. That's why we're here. That's all we do. We didn't really say anything. But I mean, it was just another place we're staying where he's playing basketball. This is what you gotta do. This is how it is. So I mean, it was just a normal time. He didn't really change a routine or change how we acted. With us, he was the exact same. We would go to practice with him. We'd go to shoot around. We get some shots up. He would shoot with us. We shoot around with the other players and talk to them. And we'd be in the locker room, and everybody was just normal. I mean, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It wasn't like they were nervous getting ready to play. It was like a regular season game. They were a little bit hyped up, but once the tip came, Karl Malone was getting in the post, or he was going to do a pick and roll, and everybody else was spotting up, and Stockton was going to do his thing. And I mean, it was a normal times. And I mean, looking back on it, you're like, oh, holy crap, there's a lot of people in there. Michael Jordan, I don't remember him being that good. Like, you watch the flu game again, or you see that game. I think it was Game 5, the first finals.
Yes.
Like the play, him kicking it out to Steve Kerr. I'll never forget that shot because I immediately cried after that. I thought we were coming back. I thought we were going to win this game. We had seen them do this time before. We're going to get a stop because they were a hell of a defensive team. Jerry Sloan wasn't going to have you not playing defense. So I mean, we're going to get a stop. You know, Jordan can't make everything, and I think we had just seen him do like some crazy up and under move from over Greg Ostertag or some crap. So I mean, it's just looking back on it, you're like, wow, Jordan was 36 and he was that good. There's no way anybody's doing that today. They're taking some days off. You know, they're taking some load management. I need some ice. I gotta get this tape on my shoulder. I don't ever remember seeing Jordan with Kinesio tape on the shoulder or some kind of sleeve or something. You don't see that. He had a little Jordan. He had the Jordan sleeve on his leg, and he had a armband. And I swear to God, I wore that armband just like Jordan did. I'm sure, Charlie, you did. I know I did. Mike did.
Yeah.
We had it.
Mike was trying to
if
be
my
like
legs
Kobe
weren't so skinny, I would have put a sleeve on my leg, but the sleeve didn't stay up.
So I use wristbands. And shoot, just thinking about that stuff right there. You know, when NBA TV started coming on, you start replaying games that we're at. Mm-hmm. And they're showing the breakdown of who's Mike scoring on. Like, oh, he's 3 for 12 against Ryan, 6 for 8 against Shannon. Well, you got them Chris Morris joints where they're saying 0 for 0 or 0 for 2. And like, yep, shut down.
That's what it looks like. Hindsight, you're like, dang, he was cold.
Yeah, you can say what you want, but he didn't get that bucket on Pops.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to ask you. This is going away from the Jordan side of things because Dražen Petrovic was one of my favorite players to watch as a shooter. What was it like seeing him up close and personal?
Draž was actually a funny dude. It's like, yeah, he's one of the best players in the world, a great shooter, but he was actually just a really good human being.
Yep.
His mom would come, his brother would come, and he wasn't like a star. Like some of the stars have security and they're too good to talk to people or sign autographs or nothing like that. He was just a normal dude, especially coming from like the Portland situation where he's sitting the bench behind Clyde. Mm-hmm. He comes to New Jersey and he's ready to get loose. He just brought a whole different energy because you got a young Kenny Anderson from New York, averaging 18 and something, all-star. Derek Coleman, 20 and 10, and they're still trying to figure out their way of being stars. And then here comes Dražen with 20 a game. Like, this is how you work. We go to practice. I'm going to get more shots up, and I'm going to be a professional about it. He was just a different animal at the time. Because you got guys now that, you know, you think, oh, he's from Europe. He's got to be super skilled, and he's just because they're working on it over there. I'm like, he works on it here, too. That dude was – like, he made me feel like they were going to beat the Bulls. Like, that's how good I thought they were going to be. Good. They were like a man away. Because it was broke Sam Bowie before I felt like it was real. Like, I really thought, funny, 92, 93 is when we were, like, starting to take off because Drazen's getting loose.
Yeah.
This is before the ultimate. Yes. Story. That game, I don't even think Kenny was playing yet. It was like Kenny was my favorite player. But I still was like, yo, we gonna beat these dudes. And they didn't have like the super bull security that when they came through. But this is still peak Mike. And I'm a ball boy. I got my gear on. They're getting off the bus, coming through to the locker room. I'm like, hey, you're Michael Jordan. My dad's team's gonna win tonight. And I didn't know like Mike was just that kind of nut, so where that kind of stuff like got him going. But I was dead serious. I'm 8-year-old kid. Like, I don't care. We're gonna win. I thought the Nets were gonna be like better than the Knicks. And it ended up being, I think it was the game that my dad broke the backboard, but Jordan had like 39 or something crazy like that.
Oh yeah, he went on.
Yeah, it was one of them.
I watched that game a couple months ago, and I mean, looking back at it, I mean, every single time Jordan played the Nets, he had 30 something, and he did some kind of up and under, like flipping around the head.
Like game where they had the tie-dye jerseys on.
Yeah, it was one of those games.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I love those jerseys, by the way.
Yeah, those were nice.
The reason I wore number 3 and wanted to wear number 3 everywhere I went was because of Drazen Petrovic. And I mean, we had some pretty dang good seats when my dad was with the Nets. Like, we were damn near courtside, and I mean, watching Kenny Anderson, Drazen Petrovic. We stayed down the street from Derek Coleman. We ride our bikes over to Derek Coleman's house as a kid. So I mean, we were in it. It was normal to just watch these guys play. To us, that's not what your life's like. We didn't know any better.
Right.
So I mean, Charlie will tell you a lot of stories about those stuff we would say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a good segue to that.
Yes, sir.
Is a funny story about how me and Sean met. We at Woody's Golf Club. It was what's the guy? What's his name? Coach Mike Woodson.
Mike Woodson.
Golf camp. Sean walks up to me and says, I think we were in 2nd, 3rd grade. Hey, what does your dad do? I said, my dad works for ConocoPhillips. Conoco. Oh, my dad's in the NBA. And then ever since then, we were good friends. I went to his house that same week. I walk into the house. I see Chris Morris. I'm like, oh man, that's Chris Morris. He looks at me. He goes, "Who the hell is this?" And I'm like, "No, we got stories for days, man. I know we're talking about Michael Jordan now, so we're gonna have to come back again."
Yeah, I was just about to say that. We have to have you back on for that, but I wanted to wrap it up because I know everybody has got stuff they want to do, and but I wanted to go back to you, Mike. Any closing thoughts on anything that we didn't talk about, maybe that you want to bring up, or anything from the documentary, and then let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
First, just documentary wise, I'm gonna leave Jerry Krause alone. They're gonna eat him up enough. But I know GM wise, only reason I knew the GM in New Jersey is because it was Willis Reed for like the first few years of our time there, and Willis was like a god in New York. And when we got to Utah, Scott Layden, I saw Scott maybe 3 times because once he was with his dad when we first got there, Frank Layden.
Right.
But other than that, the only other time I saw him, the last time I saw him was like after he tried to trade Pops. That and Greg Foster were getting traded for Ronnie Cycli, but it just didn't go through because Ronnie didn't want to go to Utah.
I wouldn't have minded going to Orlando. As a kid, I was ready to go to Disney, man.
We got free passes and everything.
I didn't care about Utah.
But,
we're the only black kids in Utah.
That does not surprise me.
But Scott stayed out the way. Great GM, did his job and went back to work. He's like, I'm not selling peanuts, but I'm not scoring buckets. I'm here to do a job. Don't ask me no questions. Maybe when we win, I'll answer some questions. But other than that, I never saw Scott. Nice. Just the times of Utah was outrageous because
it's a different place.
Sean talking about we're regular. I had to still go to private school in 7th grade. He got to go to public school, so I'm going to school.
After that first season, I got into the private school. They let me in because they were winning so damn much.
Yeah. But when I got there, they all knew my name. You got executives who got better seats than we had. Like one of my best friends had seats 2 rows behind the visitors bench for every game. So I'm like, in the mix. I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna go holler at Ryan right quick. So I'm like seeing everybody up close. It was just a different wild time. It was crazy. But I'll be back to talk a little bit more about this stuff as it continues to go along. It's gonna be crazy because there's more stories like meeting Iverson, thinking Kobe was going to be over.
Yeah, save that one. Save that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. I like to. I think the first 2 episodes were great. I kind of want to see a little bit more grimy Mike. That's the Mike I like. When he's cursing out, I want to see him punch somebody on tape. I'm trying to get one of those. Because I feel like I was that. That's how I was when I was playing. I didn't care who you were. Man, I did not care if you were Charlie Jones. I didn't care if you were Michael Morris. If I thought you were weak, I was especially going at you. You were the first one I was coming at after when I got in the gym.
We never play against each other in high school. I played against your brother my junior year because that was the last year. I think Mike was at Taylor before Cinco opened up, but I never got a chance to play against you at Cinco just because I was older. But man, I would have just playing against you in pickup games. I'd be like, man, I would have never thought you were an asshole.
No, man.
What?
Yeah,
we
man.
Argue during games.
Oh yeah,
like,
me and Mike used to get into it.
Coach would have to sub one of us out, and we're yelling at our parents.
Who you were? I thought I was better than you. It was a time, and after I found out I could dunk and I could jump over you, and just it doesn't matter. I thought I was shit. Like I thought I was better than everybody. I would check these rankings and stuff. I was like, man, I'm better than this guy. I can take him. I can hold him.
I'm gonna leave this to you.
Like, come on, man.
Charlie, let everybody know that's going to see this. It's whether it's now, later on, they're going to watch this. Let them know. Sean is like 6 feet tall. Let them know the bounce he has or had. Like we're a little older now, so maybe.
No, Sean. He
know, Charlie.
He's not 6 foot, so the stuff he's doing is unreal. Because he's probably about 5'9", 5'10". He going between the legs, windmill off the glass, some stuff you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was bouncy. I'm not gonna sit here and deny that.
Oh yeah, but I need to see grimy Mike.
Yeah.
And
Sean has the nastiest tops I've seen at his I wouldn't jump, and I could jump, but if I saw him, I was just
get out the way.
I was running because his vertically like 45.
It was about 40. The legend tells it. When I tell it, it's about 45. But on here, it's about 40. We're telling the truth.
That's still damn good.
I don't remember that test. That test seemed a little light. 40 seemed a little light.
Hey, I got to do this real quick before we go off because the first time I moved to Katy in '99, my senior year, and I went to school in A-Leaf. But everybody after I had graduated, because I graduated in 2000, and some of my buddies that I met when I moved to the Katy area, everybody kept talking about Mike Morris. Man, he's like a 6'4", he's 6'5" point guard. He can jump. So me, my man Chris Pope, and I forgot who else it was. We actually were able to get into an open gym at Cinco. Man, and Chris Pope was about 6'2", 6'3". Byron, you weren't there, bro. This is the first time I ever saw Mike. Mike came down and chested that fool, and I was like, oh my God. It was done. Hey, we had this. Everything had to be shut down after it was over. It was over. Mike pulled on him so bad. Oh my God.
Those Cinco Ranch open gyms are legendary, man. They breeded some good talent.
Eventually, Coach was like, "Man, who the fuck are y'all?" And he booted us out.
The crazy thing is that we reminisce. So the last thing I'm gonna say is what about the documentary is we're reminiscing about these old times and everything. The documentary makes all of us who just love basketball. I don't think it will ever be the same. I mean, I love basketball, and I'm a big Steph Curry fan.
Same.
He's changed the game, but the way we talk about basketball then, and we talk about it now, it's just not the same.
It's different.
I don't think it will ever be that. What Michael Jordan did to the game, it won't ever be the same.
Ever.
Yep.
Ever. Same thing with boxing. You know what I mean? For in the 90s, like seeing Mike Tyson, like all this stuff. And people think that when I talk to kids or whatever, or just even younger adults, they think I'm exaggerating everything, and I'm like, no, it was just the time period that you had to live in. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's a great point. We'll never. I'm pretty sure I tweeted this. I said somewhere in America, LeBron James got Maverick Carter and Rich Paul on the phone, talking about, yeah, man, find me a camera crew. We finna film all next season.
I think it's because everybody nowadays is so accessible. You know, Michael Jordan was like a god. You didn't get to talk to him. You didn't get to see him. LeBron James' family's on Twitter all day. Steph Curry's on TV all day. Everybody's so accessible. Back then, we idolized those guys. It's just you never saw them on the court.
That's a good question for another day. Could Michael Jordan mentally take what LeBron James is going through? Because I'm the biggest LeBron James fan you're gonna find. That's my guy.
Right.
But what he has to deal with on a daily basis from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Skip Bayless,
it's a lot.
ESPN, everybody.
Right.
That's a whole lot. Plus, he's the best player in the entire world.
Jordan would be on social media because the reason why
Jordan Vigo would be on social media.
No, he wouldn't. He would.
That whole documentary is a sneakers commercial. How many
it's a big advertisement, huh?
Yeah, and I'm sure he had something on sale during the show, and he's gonna have it again on Sunday.
Hey,
I'm looking at.
Hey, Sean, why you say that? Sneakers did a shock drop of the fives as soon as it went live. As soon as the documentary went live, like the minute it went live, shock drop.
And you wanted to buy them because they was hot.
This is
I took an L. Byron got the dub.
Oh yeah, I got the dub. But no, the thing that he said about could Michael handle this? This is what he was the master of. Just like Michael Jackson was, he really, really bought into that. How could I put it? Like he kept himself so mysterious. Like if you see Michael Jackson, he go AWOL for like a year or two. Then he come out, you see him somewhere with a chimpanzee. You know what I mean? And Michael Jordan was the same way. He didn't give people access to them because it caused you to buy into. That's what's so Air Jordans. It was like he made himself so like elusive, so like private, and you wanted a piece of him, so you bought his products.
Yeah, I
feel
agree.
Like he'd be like Tiger Woods.
Yeah, I agree with Charlie. We gotta close because I got a Michael Jordan story. Meeting him, I want to hear more of their stories.
Yep.
Matt, I think you should wrap this up.
Yeah, we're about to be done because we're over an hour. We're over an hour and a half. We want to try. We don't want it to go quite 2 hours. We got to keep the sweet spot.
Yeah. Matt, you want to? I'll do it. So what our plan is, each 2 new episodes come out on Sunday. What we're going to try to do is each Monday we're going to try to do right around the same time if we can. Just depends on everybody's schedule. We're going to kind of move everybody in and out, based on availability and episode topics. But we're going to kind of dive in the documentary piece by piece. At the very end of the documentary, we're going to bring everybody back again, and then we're going to kind of do a whole wrap up of what everybody thought as the documentary as a whole, what they might have changed. If it was them, kind of put in that they didn't cover, things like that, maybe what they left out as well. But, want to thank everybody for watching the return of the Unquestionably Raw NBA podcast. Our plan also after the documentary, hopefully if things, turn around with the coronavirus, we might get an NBA season. We can start diving back into that. If not, I know we're planning on doing a NBA awards episode, and so look out for that. But thanks everybody for watching. Hope everybody's staying safe. Keep social distancing and keep enjoying The Last Dance.
All right.
All right, y'all.